social media is huge, and I love social media, and I see so many people that just have a Facebook page, but they don't own that Facebook page. They actually own a website and all the content on a website. Facebook can change at any moment, and they do behind the scenes. So it's really difficult to get traction if you're not advertising anymore.
You're listening to the Profit by Design podcast, episode 45. You work hard in your business. On the Profit by Design podcast, we ask the big question: what has your business done for you lately? Hi, I'm Dr. Sabrina Starling, the business psychologist, the author of How to Hire the Best, and your co-host on the Profit by Design podcast. Weekly, my co-host, Mike Bruno, and I bring you tips, tools, and strategies from our own experiences and from the experiences of our guests, who are entrepreneurial thought leaders and real-life entrepreneurs, all to support you in making intentionally profitable and sustainable business decisions to live the lifestyle you desire. Is your business running your life? Are you fed up with working crazy long hours only to lay awake at night worrying about cash flow, or feeling totally angry and frustrated over what your team isn't getting done? If so, listen up. I've got something I want to share with you. At Tap the Potential, we have our small group coaching program that is designed for business owners just like yourself who are done. You're done with the way things are going and you're ready for a change, and not just any little Band-Aid change. You want a life-changing business transformation. That's what we specialize in at Tap the Potential. We turn life and cash-sucking small businesses into highly profitable, great places to work, and then we send those business owners on a 4-week vacation while the business runs without them. If that sounds good to you, I invite you to check out our small group coaching program at Tap the Potential, where we integrate Profit First, the Pumpkin Plan, and my book, How to Hire the Best, into our small groups to produce these transformations. All the while, we're working with you to be the leader you need to be to create this business that can run on its own while you have more life. Check us out, tapthepotential.com. Hey, Profit Designers. It is so good to be back with you after my 6-week vacation. Mike is currently away right now on his vacation, and he will be back hopefully in the next episode or two with us. But in the meantime, today I got to have a really fun conversation with David Hawke about marketing for contractors. Now, if you're not a contractor, don't tune out just yet, because one thing that we've learned at Tap the Potential is the value of learning cross-industry. So when you're learning about something that's working in another industry, you can do something that we pumpkin planners call the Leapfrog Technique. So taking something into your industry that no one else is doing or has awareness of and utilizing it yourself. So there's an opportunity here to do some cross-industry learning, and maybe you're going to gather something outside your industry that you can do that will help you leapfrog your competition. So what really, this episode got us talking about strategy and marketing strategy and the subtle things that we can be doing, especially with digital marketing, that will help us stand out and really bring in much better business for ourselves and the right kinds of business that we want to be doing. So let me share with you David's bio. David Hawke is the founder of Affluent Contractor, a marketing firm specializing in placing your message in front of the right prospect when they are actively looking to hire a contractor. Also providing social media solutions and powerful website design and hosting platforms for contractors, he can quickly and proactively get the necessary touch points needed to get your prospect's attention and into the sales process. David started a successful remodeling company in 2000. He was a member of the Home Builders Association and served as chairman of his Remodelers Council, as well as president of his local Chamber of Commerce Council. He has been the key speaker at numerous Small Business Association and Chamber of Commerce seminars, as well as an instructor at Chattanooga State Community College on topics ranging from digital marketing best practices and website development to social media strategies with Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and more. David is a U.S. Army combat veteran and honorably retired his military service in 1992 after numerous accommodations, attaining the rank of sergeant and serving in Operation Desert Storm with the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment. He has held executive positions in sales with a major corporation, as well as owned a successful remodeling company from 2000 to 2008. David and his wife, Kim, are both from Chattanooga and enjoy many of its benefits like biking, scenic drives, and being on the lake. And with that, let's get into our conversation with David. So, David, it's so wonderful to have you here, and we get to talk about a topic that I'm not sure we give enough attention to, especially our contractors, and that's your area of expertise, and that is marketing for contractors.
Yes, it's something I've done for a long time. I started it because I was a contractor, and I found it necessary to kind of take over my own marketing. And you're right, it's not really given a whole lot of attention a lot of times by contractors. And many talk about, word of mouth. And I love word of mouth advertising. It's probably the best lead you'll get, but at the same time, it's very uncontrollable where you can control the other things. And I like the control.
So, and I also wonder if some of what you're going to share today is going to help us be more in control of the word of mouth marketing that gets out there.
Yes, because what we're going to talk about some is social, and social works a lot like word of mouth, only you get to control what people are saying. So that's the best part of it. You don't have to wait for somebody else.
Nice. So let's kind of go into your background a little bit and talk about your experience in the industry. And you said you started your own, or you took over your own marketing because you realized there was a need for it. And that's what has led you to build your current company, the Affluent Contractor. So tell us about your background a little bit.
Well, I started contracting in 2000. I became a remodeler. I was a pretty good all around. I knew it came to me pretty easily. So I was a carpenter, and I decided to start my own company, which I did. And I quickly found out there were many things in business that I didn't know. I could build the house, but building the business was quite a bit different. And I was struggling with that. And about a year into me being a contractor, I met Randall Souls, who, I partner with on our podcast and some other things. But I met him, and thank goodness I did, because he had been in business about 24 years, was selling high-ticket jobs to the affluent market. And I was more in the upper middle class. I got into affluent market now and then, but upper middle class was more my niche. And he taught me a lot about the selling of remodeling and things like that. And I was able to sell for more. I was still having difficulty getting jobs, and I paid numerous people a lot of money to do different things and put ads out. And like most people, one that sticks out is the radio, because that one's what really set me on my track of I've got to learn marketing, because these people came and they said, "Do you have an ad?" And I, "Well, not really." And they said, "Don't worry about it. We'll make it for you." And I loved that because it's off my plate. All I had to do was write the check. So I wrote the check, and I wrote the check, and I continued to write the check until I realized I'm going to market myself right into the poorhouse. It just wasn't working. And I remember the ad actually talked about old world style contracting, and it just was a lot of platitudes, and it meant nothing to anybody and cost me a lot of money. So that's when I started studying marketing, and that's now been, 18 years ago. So I've been studying for that long. Always enjoyed the computers and things like that. So digital marketing kind of was just a natural flow for me.
So I want to get into digital marketing here, but before we go there, one of the things that I'm really curious about, after you stopped the radio ad and you decided I'm going to learn marketing, what was the next thing that you did?
Yeah, I was getting more jobs. Truly, most of my work came through the internet at that time. I had my website and we had set that up, optimized it well. And what happened was the market kind of drove me into getting or doing more bathrooms. So I specialized in bathroom remodeling, but it really wasn't my decision. It was the market. That's what I got calls for.
So you did the SEO on your website, and that was what was more effective after you realized the radio ads weren't working, the SEO.
Yes, we did that, and we did some Google ads. The SEO really worked very well. It's a little bit different today than it was then because Google makes so many changes. The last time I heard they were making, I think it was 648 changes per year in their algorithm. So nobody can really keep up with that. Google's gone to more the Google local, the 3-pack that you see, and that didn't exist then. So organic rankings, we were at the top all the time then. It's more difficult to do today, but advertising's a little easier and a little less expensive today too. So it kind of works out.
That balances it out. So one of your areas of expertise is digital marketing, and I want to unpack that term a bit because that's used a lot. What is digital marketing?
Well, the simple answer is it's anything online, but you see, social media, you've got Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, so many different social media platforms. But further than that, it's Google. It's the ads that you see on different websites. There's some it's called native ads. And if you scroll down on various websites, you'll see the really intriguing headlines like, 3-headed lady has a 4-legged baby or something like that that's going to stop you. And those are native, but you can do that now and your ads can literally be everywhere. As a small company, you can have ads on very large websites that give you much more of a large presence. And it doesn't have to be nationwide. So like if you're going to want to place an ad on Oprah Winfrey's website, it doesn't have to go all over. It can be localized. So it really works well.
Just people who are local who are on her website would be seeing your ad.
Yes.
And that controls the cost of the ad, right?
Definitely.
Okay. So let's take us through, with respect to digital marketing, all the different touch points that need to be hit and that when they are hit will bring a prospect into the sales process with you.
Okay. It's really a wide question because there's so many different ways you can target people. One of my favorites is Facebook, just because most everybody is on Facebook. If you sit down at a restaurant, you see everybody's still scrolling their phones. Nobody's talking to each other anymore. But it's great for advertising because all the people are there and you can put ads in front of people very easily and very inexpensively there. Other ways you can do it, though, are based on what people are searching, based on what websites people are visiting, and you can get all that all just from going to different platforms and placing ads or, hiring people like me to place ads. So we do all that stuff. But then once somebody takes that action that kind of qualifies them as this is somebody I want to put my ad in front of, then we decide where are we going to put that ad. So like I was talking about the native ads, or is it in a Facebook news feed, or is it Google ads, or where is it? And then once that person actually takes an action that we want them to take, which is clicking on our ad, then most people will not buy or even give you their contact information on the first click. So it's very important that we track those things. And then once those people take that action, if they don't do what we wanted them to do, then we retarget them, which is showing them more ads all on these different platforms where they're showing up.
So I'm really curious here. When I started doing Facebook advertising potential, I was a do-it-yourselfer, DIY. And I thought, this is so fascinating because I'm a psychologist, and I thought I can identify, the hot buttons and the pain points, and we can put those in the ads, and then we can target, and it'll be great.
Right.
And it was an abysmal failure, kind of like your radio ads, just money flying out the window, no return whatsoever. So what are the pitfalls of the DIY approach when it comes to our own digital marketing?
The pitfalls of DIY is most people do what other people are doing. They might see what their competitors' ads are running. Just because a competitor's running an ad doesn't mean it's successful. And Facebook, with their new transparency, you can see any ad that anybody is running. So if your page, for instance, if I went there, I could see what ads you're running if you're currently running ads. And you can see that about any business. But the problem is most of the ads, especially on Facebook, are not right, because if you've studied copywriting whatsoever, it's always talking about call out the potential target that you're looking for. So in the case of a contractor, it might be, are you looking to remodel your kitchen? If so, call me or whatever. Most people do what I call me ads. So we've been in business for 30 years. We'll take care of you. Give us a call. And those ads just don't work on social media. Actually, what we're finding on social media is that, and you'll like this as a psychologist, I think, that people, the less pointed you are, the better the ad works. So you kind of have to point it towards yourself. So if I were going to recommend for a contractor right now who is looking to do kitchen remodels, I would start the ad as a kitchen remodeler, or as a kitchen remodeler who's done business for 30 years. Here's the top design trends we've seen, and it engages people, and people will read those things, and it typically is 3 to 5 times better than any other ad that's run when we change things like that. And you can actually talk about the person or talk to the person directly, but it's got to be down kind of deeper in the ad. We do really long form ads right now.
Yeah. And, I think about social media like Facebook. It is social. So it's like you're at a dinner party or some other gathering or barbecue, and you're just in a group of people and you start talking about, and somebody brings up their bath remodel that they've got in mind. And you say, here's some things, as somebody who's been doing this for 30 years, here's some things you might want to consider. And if you take that approach as you're writing the ads, it becomes easier for people to connect and engage. Is that kind of like what you're getting at here?
Well, with that explanation you just gave, you should be a Facebook marketer. Because
Well, I studied this in depth for a year. I think I'm ready to go. That's my next. No, I'm kidding. Never.
No, really, though, that is the way I tell people to think about it. Think about it like you're at a barbecue with friends. You walk in and you hear somebody that's talking about remodeling their kitchen, and what are you going to talk about? Typically, you're not going to turn around and say, hey, I'm a kitchen remodeler, call me Monday. Or you're not going to walk in, and that's not the conversation you're going to have. So Your explanation was spot on. That's exactly what you need to do.
Well, and I love just imagining taking the current ad, if you have any ads running currently, and thinking about yourself standing at a barbecue saying that to somebody. Like, would that roll off your tongue, or would you be mortified that you just did that?
Right. As everybody scatters away from you.
There's that guy who's chasing business.
Right.
He's not here for the food and the socializing. Okay. So as we start to think about these different touch points and what's moving people forward beyond Facebook, what are some other touch points that help people move forward?
Well, it's just really giving people a lot of good content. So what I typically tell people is have quality things that people can view and interact with, whether it's on your website or your social media or in your ads, period. Just have stuff that interests people. And we've been in business for 30 years isn't very interesting, and it's getting more and more difficult to do ads like that. So we typically recommend people have about 6 good content articles or videos or just content, and then really have at least one really strong ad So you're kind of touching them with content so people are engaging. And once people do that, then you can reach out to them with an ad that's, really targeted towards give us a call or fill out a form or whatever. Something too that I wanted to hit real quick. Most people think that because they do digital marketing, the sales process has to change. And that's not necessarily true. If getting phone calls is working for you, that may be the right thing to stick with, even through digital form.
So what is a good way to transition? And I think that because that is a big transition point, because you're going from one context to another, from social media, Facebook, to a phone call. So how do you bridge that transition?
We ask people, truly. And there's a setup that we're going to give people a flow chart here in a little bit, but it actually tells and it gives my kind of layout for an ad. But basically, the flow goes like this. And have you ever watched Home Shopping Network?
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you watch those, even if you don't like it, if you watch it for the marketing aspect of it, it's pretty incredible. And this kind of really fits with what they do. But you get up and you start talking about, today we're going to talk about kitchen remodeling and, best practices on getting your kitchen just the way you want it and having it work for you. By the way, before I forget, if you're interested in kitchen remodeling and you're ready for a contractor to come out and take a look, we'd be happy to do that for you. And you can find us over at XYZ website and give us a call. Or you can just give your phone number or whatever. And then you go into the actual content and you give people something that they can really use. So it really would be the best practices or best layouts and things like that. So,
well, and that builds the trust too in the relationship.
And you should actually kind of repeat the call to action. When we do that through even our just regular content videos where we're not expecting people to take the action, but we do that through all of them. And hopefully every 30 seconds, but that it wears on my mind trying to remember 30 seconds. So we just do it 4 or 5 times in the video.
That is hard to remember every 30 seconds. So how important is video for a contractor?
That's the biggest thing going right now. It's the cheapest ad you will run on Facebook. You can track so many things too, because with a video, the thing that I like, if you post a video, whether you're running an ad or not, you can actually see how long people are watching that. We did a video for a customer and he still uses television advertising, which just kills me. But he's convinced he needs to do something more than Facebook. And I agree with that. But he had a television commercial made and he gave me the commercial and he said, should we run this on Facebook? And I said, sure. And I asked him, I said, when does it come out? And he, well, it won't show up on TV for another week. I said, okay. And this was a Friday. I told him, I said, let me just post it. And I think it was a 30-second commercial. And we posted it, and by Sunday morning through Facebook, and it was completely organic, we didn't even run ads to it, he had 17 hours overall watched of that 30-second video. And now, keep in mind, he doesn't have a huge Facebook following. He's just over 5,000 now. Then he was probably at 4,000. But you can see all that. So what you can do is the people that were interested in that video, now you can go show ads to those people that engaged, and you can really do it at certain parts. So if somebody watched 3 seconds, 10 seconds, 25%, 50%, 75, 90, or 100%, you can advertise to all of those people.
Yeah, you can get very specific.
Yes, it's very strong.
I know it's been a while. Do you remember what was it about that video that was so compelling for people?
He has such a good reputation with people, and his business gets a lot of accolades. The people that liked his Facebook page were starting to see it, but what really blows that stuff up is when people start commenting and sharing. And we actually asked the question, this is our new commercial, what do you think?
Ooh.
And it got all this interaction and people sharing, and that's really kind of what blew it up.
That is a great tip, because when you ask somebody, here's our new thing, what do you think? They're in reviewer mode now. So they're not going to just cut it off after 5 seconds. If they're going to give you an honest review, they're going to read or watch the whole video.
Yes.
That's brilliant. And then they're going to comment.
Yes. It gets people engaged.
I think we're going to be using this. Randy's our videographer. Randy, this is our new strategy.
By the way, I haven't seen any social media advertising, but I have seen your websites, and you do so well with that.
Thank you.
I love that you have multiple websites. That's something I always tell people too. Split it up. Do something about kitchen remodeling and do something else about bath remodeling. Don't just have the one.
Well, why is that good? How do you use that together?
Well, for one, it just gives more places that people can find you. But if you think about it, if somebody, and I'm going to use kitchen remodeling again, if somebody's looking to have their kitchen remodeled and they look at John Smith Construction, they're not so likely. It doesn't have the mental, this is what I'm looking for. But if they look at kitchen remodeling Chattanooga, that might have more of a, I'm looking for a kitchen remodel. It would make sense that I click in and I check this website out.
So you can be more targeted that way.
Definitely.
So do you feel like a contractor needs a website these days?
For sure I do. And one, social media is huge, and I love social media, and I see so many people that just have a Facebook page, but they don't own that Facebook page. They actually own a website and all the content on a website. Facebook can change at any moment, and they do behind the scenes. All the time they're changing. And, when Facebook first came out, if you had 5,000 followers or people who had liked your page and you posted a post as a business, they would put that out to all those people for the most part. And they've quit doing that. And the reason is because Facebook wants to make money. And now they charge you to advertise, to reach even your own people who have liked your page. So it's really difficult to get traction if you're not advertising anymore. And it is the change where, the traffic that comes through to your website and things like I was talking about, if you have the specific website for kitchen remodel and bath remodel, you can also put a little snippet of code on your website that allows you to go and retarget people with ads who have visited your website. And that's not a generic thing. So if they visited a specific page like kitchen remodels, you can target them with advertisements that talk specifically about kitchen remodels. So
that's psychologically, it's such a brilliant way to utilize your website and Facebook together.
Yes.
To be that targeted and getting in front of people. So when you're working with someone to build a website, what are some key elements that a contractor needs to have on a website?
The first thing is the ability for people to contact you easily. And people want to contact you by multiple different ways. Some people are going to want to call. Some people are going to want to text. Some people are going to want to message, email. So having all of those available, I typically recommend have the phone number, big so that people can see it. And then just have all the ways that people can get in touch with you. So if that's Facebook Messenger, and Facebook Messenger is growing. People are using that more and more.
And that's also a way to interact with people through your ads, is to drive them to Messenger, right? And there's some automation that can be put in place.
Yeah, what you're talking about is a chat bot, and you can kind of automate the message or the conversation that's going on. So if they ask a specific question like hours, you can have, or what are your hours? You can have this chat bot that automatically has the conversation and tells them, here are our hours. And those are pretty good, especially for people who don't get back to people very quickly.
No, there's not any contractors like that. None of them that we work with would do. They're on it.
I know it. But your people are better than most.
They're the A players of the contract. contractors, I tell you. So, yeah, but the chatbot could be that quick response when you're on site somewhere and you can't get back to somebody. You can.
Yes, and what we typically do is set those things up because a chatbot can't be programmed to have every conversation. Sometimes people are going to ask questions it doesn't know. So what it can do is there's actually a setting for the chatbot does not understand what the question is, but it can still send a message immediately that says, you know what, I'm not positive exactly what we need to do here. Somebody will be contacting you as soon as possible. So it gives somebody peace of mind because we're all in such a hurry for things now. If we don't get instant responses, we're probably going to go off and try and get our answers from somebody else. So just telling somebody that this person or we will be back to you as quickly as possible, it gives them some closure on that conversation.
Yeah. So the quick response time. Do you have any strategies for helping contractors increase their response time?
Other than the chatbot, I mean, the automation it's everything at this point. So
do you ever recommend like the answering services that are out there?
If somebody doesn't have a physical person to answer the phone, yes, I would recommend that.
Yeah, because it just seems to me like as you're growing your business, there's different phases that you go through. And as you get larger, obviously, you're going to have somebody in the office who can take the calls for you. But when you're just getting started and you're adding your first few team members, maybe having an answering service handle the incoming calls for you is a good first step.
You could do that, or there are different call services online that work pretty well too. One I'm thinking of is, I think it's called Grasshopper. It will do that. It'll give a message and then you can kind of set that up how you want it to be set up. So I like that one pretty well.
I'm just thinking this through because that really is such a problem, and it's talked about that contractors don't, it's days, weeks. If you ever hear back from them, that if you can be the contractor who has that quick response time without you having to feel like you are Johnny on the spot and having to jump every time the phone rings, because that'll drive you nuts.
Right.
I think that's an opportunity to really stand out.
I agree. Well, it's funny because Randall and I are having the conversation right now about automation. There's so much available out there and so many things that most people are unaware that can be automated. So we're having those conversations now about creating some different platforms specifically for contractors that automate. We haven't gone into the phone conversations yet, but lots of different things can be automated. So between CRMs and all different kinds of, we're early in that conversation, but we are talking about it.
Well, I'm curious to see how that unfolds and what you guys come up with.
Me too.
Yeah. That's exciting. So we were talking about what's important to have on a website and contact information, obviously. Anything else that's important?
Two things that I would point out. One, it needs to be easy to navigate. And two, the text needs to be large enough so older people can read it.
Oh, yes.
That is huge. You're wearing glasses. I wear glasses. When I was 22, it was a lot easier to read a small font than it is today. So I never put anything less than a 16 font and sometimes more.
And I also find for myself more space and images and video rather than words. Like too many words make me want to just leave.
Good point. I'm glad you brought that up. And you're right. If you have a long story, it really needs to be broken up into, we try and keep it to 3 sentences before we line break. And that's becoming more and more the way people talk. And if you think about, a lot of people converse through text message. And if you write, it's going to be hard for the people that are really set on great grammar. Like Randall, he corrects me all the time and I drive him crazy. But it really is the way people talk now. And if you break it up on the screen, kind of like you're texting somebody, it works much better, because if you just open a screen and it's all text, it's very intimidating and hard to read, and most people will not read it.
Well, and at the same time, it also makes it much easier to create your website copy because, again, going back to the conversation at the barbecue example, it should be conversational, and too stiff and formal, and it feels very off-putting. And that, I totally get where Randall's coming from with that. I had to overcome, my doctorate in psychology and all that.
Right.
I had to unlearn all that before I could be effective in my marketing.
Yes. And it is a difficult thing to do.
Yeah. But at the same time, the other piece about the small blocks of text is when people are on a website, they're scrolling quickly. So having things bolded and highlighted and using different size text or headers, yes, and looking at the story that is told. If someone just reads the headers, what is the story that is being told? Because 9 times out of 10, they're just reading your headers.
Right. And if you can tell that story in headlines, like you're saying, and subheadlines, that works really, really well. It works well in emails too. Yeah.
So how important are reviews?
Well, they are huge. Actually, I just had a thing that was showing how many people, what they actually trust. And it went through newspaper and radio ads and everything, but it was a high percentage of people trusted online reviews just as much as they trusted a word of their friend. So
I think that's true. I know from my own experience, I'll start with my friends and ask them who did they use and have success with. And if somebody says, if I come up empty, then I go online and I start looking at reviews.
Right. And yeah, reviews are huge. And it's something that's kind of interesting is you don't necessarily want that perfect 5-star review because you do want people giving you those, but the overall makes it look like maybe it's been staged. So
if it's too many 5-star and no other numbers, then
right. If you've got 150 reviews and it's 5 stars, I would question that.
Yeah. So, okay, this is the big one we always get asked. How do you handle a negative review?
Just respond to it the best you can. You will never get rid of it. I have worked with Yelp and I've worked with Google trying to get rid of negative reviews for customers. They just will not get rid of them. Even when it's obvious that the review has been or isn't right. I have a customer who he had a bad review and the person wasn't even in this area. They were from, I think, Texas. And this was a local customer of mine. And we petitioned Google to take that review off, and they just would not do it. So you just have to respond to it. And typically, the nicer you can respond, the better. But, you have to be real, too. So,
yeah, you don't want to be. I think that's a really important point because if you're too nice, then it sends a message to others that they could take advantage of you, or it just kind of perpetuates that problem. So nice, helpful, set a limit. And sometimes people are just angry and you're an easy target and you have to accept that you were their target that day.
Exactly. But also when it comes to reviews, responding to the good reviews is good too. Now we're getting reviews on Facebook, we're getting them on Google and Yelp. So if you respond to even the good ones, that's a great strategy to use. People see that you're engaged with that, and you come across as a caring company.
Absolutely. So how do you go about getting reviews? Do people just give them to you? Do you have to do something to get them?
Would have a card or maybe an email that linked people to, although you've got to be careful with that too, because websites like Yelp track how people are finding you. So if you send them an email and they click the email that links over to Yelp, that review is likely not going to be shown. So you have to be kind of careful. The more organic you can make it, the better. And the problem is you have to make it as easy for the customer to do as possible. So you want to give them a link because some of those links are very long and difficult to type. But we typically, especially with contractors, have a business card and just ask people at the end of the job, hey, would you mind giving us a review and tell them, here's where to go. here's where we'd like you to review us anyway.
Yeah. So what kind of follow-up should a contractor be building into their marketing?
Follow-up is everything.
Really?
I think so. It's so much easier and cheaper to get a customer that's already done business with you. And 69% of people say they did not do business with somebody again because of perceived indifference. So that means if somebody did business with you and then you left, hey, think everything was good. There was no problems whatsoever, but you left and just assumed that the next time they needed something done on their home, they were going to call you. That was an incorrect assumption. Where if you send them, it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. We use emails, but I like the mail too, because not many people do that anymore.
It's a way to stand out, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And something we have is to keep it inexpensive, is the world's most interesting postcard. And on the front of it, it just has random facts that are kind of interesting to read. It's yellow, so it stands out. And then on the back of it, it looks like a little yellow sticky note. And that's where we personalize whatever. They're all the same on the front, but then we personalize it and we say things like, it's coming up into the spring season. Here are some things you should be doing. Or if you know anybody who's looking for a, kitchen remodel, have them call us. Those work very well and they're inexpensive.
Yeah. So the little things. I'm blown away by that statistic that 69% won't reuse the same person who they had a great experience with just because of perceived indifference.
Yes. And, something you can use warranties and stuff to your benefit. And something Randall and I talk about, and we did, was if you give a year warranty on a project, at 11 months, call the people and say, your warranty is getting ready to expire. I just wanted to make sure everything's still good with that. And you'll be surprised how many jobs come out of that call.
Oh, yeah.
And at 11 months, they're probably happy. Maybe a door handle's loose or something and you go fix it. But it is such a big thing for people to do that kind of thing. And it makes such a difference, and it will build your wallet too.
Yeah. So what are some other strategies for follow-up that are a little bit out of the box that you've seen some of your clients using?
Of course, email. Out of the box is really more social stuff and targeting people with ads so that they stay in front of them. Mm-hmm. But the world's most interesting postcard is probably the most out of the box.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, so, and people like it.
You kind of glossed over that a bit, but it's a really subtle, very important point. You can upload your contacts into Facebook so they can retarget people that you've done business with.
Yes, so by email, their phone number, there are a lot of different ways you can upload people. And it's not going to come up with everybody because the email they gave you might not be the same email they put on Facebook, and phone numbers the same way. But phone numbers are better than emails if you can have that. Most of the time those work and the percentage is higher. It's normally around 70% though when you load that list in that you'll find on Facebook, and you can send advertisements specifically to them.
Uh-huh. So one final question here, and then I want you to talk about the giveaway that you have for our listeners, which is pretty cool. Okay. What do you see from your perspective? What's the biggest opportunity that's being missed in the marketplace today for contractors?
By far, retargeting and through advertisements. And we kind of talked about that, but I'll recap that. It's just when somebody has done something, if they've been to your website, if they've engaged with a Facebook post, if they've looked at a video, getting back to them with ads, because you've heard forever that it takes anywhere between 8 and 12 touches to get somebody to make a purchase. So it makes sense that if we control those touches, so we're going back at them with retargeting ads and, the good content and things like that. And then the one that says, hey, give me a call. It just makes sense if we can control those 8 to 12. And personally, I think that's a lot higher number right now. Google sent me a article the other day that these people were buying a car. And so I like the car analogy because it's a high price thing, just like a remodel job would be. And probably the remodels more, but some of these people, the least amount of touches it took for these people to buy was 110. And it went up into the 600s for various items and things.
Well, just be grateful we're not in the car dealership business.
Thank goodness. I know it.
So I just want to be real clear here with our listeners. We are not recommending the DIY approach for retargeting because that's something that you want to be real specific with. You want to match the retargeting to the action that was taken. And so, you're busy growing your businesses. You don't have time to dig into all of this. It's much better to work with somebody who knows what they're doing to put this in place for you.
Well, and there's just so many things. I mean, it's taken me 18 years to learn the things that I know. It's difficult to run your construction business and do the marketing and do all of it well. So it's why I have a job. Yeah. And so you live and breathe this stuff. You do this day in and day out. And I think what's so nice about what you're doing is you're very focused on two things, contractors and systems. Yes, for sure. Systems. We love systems.
So I want to link this back to our interview that we had with Randall Souls, your partner in the scientific remodeling system. We had him on our show with probably about 10 episodes back now. And he went in depth about the value of having systems in place. You're the marketing system expert. And what I appreciate about what you've shared with us today and what you do is you're taking a comprehensive approach to looking at a contractor's business. We've got a website. We're going to have social media, even incorporating print and the different ways to reach people with mailers.
Right.
And pulling that together rather than if you have somebody who does your social media and then you have somebody else doing your website and then you have another company that's going to do a mailer for you. None of that is integrated. So you really want to have somebody who's doing an integrated approach for you.
Yes. And, a lot of people hire social media people, and there are so many out there that you can get for a couple $100 a month. And I don't recommend those because if you look at a lot of the stuff, there's no engagement whatsoever. And that really hurts you over time with social media. So I think it should be the contractor or somebody in the office, at least, that does that if it's at all possible. But hire somebody that if you're going to hire an outside person, that at least has some knowledge about the industry and can put things out there that people are going to actually engage with rather than just doing a post to have a post. I think that's so silly.
Well, yeah. And it's not just the industry knowledge that I think is important. Somebody who's also going to sit and ask you about who your ideal clients are, what your areas of expertise are, and really pull all of that together in a comprehensive strategy.
Yes. And find out what is your real goal with this. Mm-hmm. And like you said, who are your customers? That's a difficult question because so many people will say, well, everybody's my customer. But especially for contractors, that's not true. I mean, there are homes that you're not going to go quote a job down there because you're not going to get it. It's,
to put a plug in for what we do with our clients, we use the pumpkin plan strategy, and that's really identifying those top 20% of your customers and clients who are responsible for 80% of the revenue that has come in your business in the last 24 months.
Yeah.
And once you have that top 20% identified, understanding of those top 20%, who in that group are people that you smile when you think about versus cringe. If you cringe when you think about them, they're not your ideal. So we start to study, that profile. And when we take our clients through a process of doing what's called the wish list interviews with their top 20% that they would like to do business with again. So they really start to understand the psychology of their top 20% that then can be incorporated in these marketing strategies. And that's when you really start speaking to them. So you want everything on the website and your social media. You want all of that to flow and communicate to one type of customer. And I think the greatest benefit that our clients really hone in on very early on is, oh, I don't have to deal with those PITA clients anymore. I can actively deter them. And as a matter of fact, this isn't a contractor. This is a new client who's in a different industry. I was on his website yesterday, and he says, we do this kind of work. It is high end. It takes a long time. If you're looking for a quick fix, let me give you a list of referrals. And he sends them right from his website to his competition.
That's awesome. And all the people he doesn't like, I suppose. That
Yeah, right out the door.
That's so true, because your ads, especially in advertising and things, but your website is an advertisement. All that stuff is an advertisement, whether you're paying for ads or not. It's all to advertise your business, and your ads should attract the people that you want and really repel the people that you don't want, because you don't want a whole lot of wasted time with those people.
Right. And
so I think what you're doing is great.
Well, thank you. I enjoy it. But I also think if you're spending money on ads and you are attracting your PITA clients, like that is just like, why would you do that to yourself?
Right. It's just stressful and more work for no money.
Right. You're just sending things down a negative spiral. So you have this fantastic gift for our listeners on your website, the Affluent Contractor. Can you tell us about what you're going to share with our listeners?
It is actually what I call the contractor social media marketing flowchart. And it tells one that I said, kind of the way we run ads and how we word things and make videos and all that, but it gives that outline so that people can kind of emulate that if they do want to do that themselves. And then it also talks about the different platforms, where to put things, and, what to post organically, what to do if you're running ads and that kind of thing. So
I have it pulled up in front of me, and I can see it's incredibly helpful. Like the level of detail that's on this flowchart. This isn't just like 3 images in a flowchart. This is very detailed.
Yes. I tried to think very hard when I was doing that, because there is really so much, and it is just about social media. I mean, it's not overall advertising, but so many people have such a difficult time with social media, and many people I hear say, well, social media doesn't work for me. And that's not true. Social media will work for anybody. It just has to be done the proper way. And they can get that, by the way. It's affluentcontractor.com/tap the potential. And there's dashes between it's tap and then dash and the potential.
Okay. And we will put that in our show notes to make it real easy for people to hop over and get Perfect. It as well. So on this flow chart, one of the things that I think is interesting is that you're distinguishing, and I don't see the whole thing in front of me. You have a snippet of it here. So I'm only seeing a piece of it.
The little teaser, The
little teaser. Right. You're distinguishing between what gets a lot of exposure, and then there's a place where you're talking about budget and schedule. You're looking at organic traffic, and I mean, it's so detailed. It said you should have 2 posts per week minimum of free post content. So somebody who's downloading this, I think, is going to get a real good idea of here's what my social media should look like overall. It's not going to guide them through do this, do this, do this, but it gives that overall picture so that as they're looking at somebody to help them with their social media, they're going to be a much more informed contractor.
Yes. And one of the things that's on there, and it probably doesn't show up as important as it really is, but using real pictures and faces. If somebody's standing there and you take a selfie out on the job, I know it may seem silly, but those get so much reaction. Another client that I have, he had somebody call him. I work with him on his social media. He had somebody call him and was talking to him, wanting to get his social media business. And he told me about it. And he told me about the conversation they had. And one thing that this lady had told him was he should use more pictures of himself and the employees and things. And he said, I think that's true. And I said, yes, Donnie. And we've talked about that for 2.5 years. But I said, you don't like your picture taken. So, you've got to take pictures if you want to do that. And he just looked at me and he said, yeah, you're right. But that day I actually got him to take a picture of himself, and we posted that. And we did a test. Actually, it was an advertisement. Again, didn't pay any money for it. So it was an honest test. But we did one where we just did a graphic and put in the offer. And then we did one with his picture and we put in the offer. And the one with his picture did 4 times better than the other one.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. As a psychologist, I'll tell you, we tune into people's faces. That's how we're hardwired to survive, is to look at faces.
People's faces and pets.
Yeah. Dogs and pets, but especially dogs. There's something about dogs that work really well. And babies, cute babies. My kids are getting a little old. My 5-year-old is still kind of cute, but my 12-year-old just sticks her tongue out. And I'm not sure that's going to be for social media. But, from the hiring perspective and attracting A players, I've got my book getting ready to come out, the How to Hire the Best Contractors edition. And one of the best ways to attract A players to your team is to utilize their networks, because A players hang together. This is so important when it comes to social media. When you're on job sites, take pictures of your team. If you don't like taking your own picture and doing the selfie, you don't have to. I know you might say something different, but take pictures of your team, because they are proud and they feel really good. Put them in there and then tag every single one of them. Say something nice about what they did, and they will reshare that in their own social media, and their family members will start commenting, and you'll get a lot of likes, comments, and shares that way. And you're showing off the work you do. So you're attracting more clients and you're reaching a broader network that way. But you're also setting the stage of, hey, we're a great place to work.
Yes. And you say you don't know how to do social media marketing very well. You're an expert.
I'm good at the strategy, but if I have to get in there and do it, then I don't have time to do the strategy. So I'm so used to doing that.
Yeah, you're exactly right, though. In doing that, like you say, it just blows it up. It gets to more people. And, that's marketing.
Yeah. And even better, if you can get a picture of the family dog on the job site, then you're golden, definitely. Right?
I was looking through some pictures the other day, and we have a picture of a deck that we were building, and we were about midways through the build, and this guy's English bulldog came out, and he just sat down on the side of the deck and was looking off, and I got a picture, and that'd be perfect for social media today.
Yeah. So there's lots of opportunities. Let's remind our profit designers where they can get your social media marketing flow chart one more time.
Okay, affluentcontractor.com/tap the potential. And if you're going to link it on your website, but for short, you can also just do TTP if you want. So affluentcontractor.com/TTP will get you there.
All right. So there's some simple ways to get there. And if people want to get in touch with you, David, and they want to work with you to develop their marketing strategy, what's the best way to reach you?
The Affluent Contractor website. Or my email, which it's actually david@affluentcontractor.com. And either of those, plenty of ways to get a hold of me on the website though, too. So.
And if they want to work with you and Randall on the scientific remodeling system, where do they go for that?
That would, same email, david@affluentcontractor.com. Randall and I are talking every day. So.
Okay. But that's also the scientific remodeling website.
Scientific remodeling system is kind of the flagship. And I tell people that's a remodeling business in a box. If you're looking for systems, that it's got it. And Randall, I don't know if you know Randall's background. When he went to college to be an engineer. Mm-hmm. And they are the people that come up with the best systems. It drives me crazy sometimes because I'm more of let's just do this and get it done. And so Randall and I kind of balance each other out because he'll hold me back a little bit. And, we need to think about this and think about that. But I also speed him up a little bit because he is very granular when it comes to things and wants to make sure everything is perfect. Mm-hmm. And not that I don't want it to be perfect or good, but sometimes you just got to get things out there and do it.
done is better than perfect.
Yes. But scientificremodelingsystem.com, yes, that's all the processes for a construction company.
Okay. And you guys have a podcast too.
The remodelingbusinessblueprint.com. We just got a new host on that. And so it's getting out a little bit more. We were hosting it all through Amazon S3, and now we went to a new host. So it seems to be working a little better for us. It's
a very informative podcast. You've had myself on there. You've had Mike Bruno on there. Your guests that you bring on they share a lot of their own experience and what works in business as a contractor.
Well, that's true. And we try and look at it. We do talk about scientific remodeling system a lot on there because we're talking about systems and things. But we try and bring people, the best people that we see out there in the industry, because a lot of times it's not difficult to find people, but it's difficult to find the right people.
Yes.
So it's people like you. I mean, your podcast that you did with us on hiring the best people, I think that was just amazing. I mean, you had some insights that I had never thought of. And I'm sure a lot of other contractors haven't either. And it's just because they're busy getting a job done.
Yeah. Well, and I've been living, eating, breathing, and helping clients through this for the last 5 or 6, maybe longer years. And so there's a lot of subtleties. I learn a lot from my clients because the hiring piece of this is like this big elephant, and everybody knows a little piece of what works. And right. I get to put it all together and say, here's the whole elephant. Isn't it pretty?
Right.
And look, it's so easy once we can all see the whole elephant.
Yes. And you think about that, you're in the position to do that where no contractor is really in the position to do that. So it is why hiring a specialist is really the way to go a lot of times.
It cuts the learning curve so much.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great. I always like talking to you, and I learned something every time.
I learned a lot today, too. And I can't wait for our profit designers to get in and listen and ask questions and interact. We have the Profit by Design podcast Facebook page, and we get a lot of conversation going in there from these episodes. So I think today is a good thought-provoking episode. So thank you.
And Randall and I both are all about answering questions too. And we love getting questions. Contractors are kind of tight-lipped sometimes, but
well, I find it's not so much tight-lipped, it's short. They're concise in their communication.
Yes. And honestly, I think that's when you're dealing with somebody who is a professional. Some of the most successful people I've ever known, the longest response I would get from them is maybe 3 words. And it's just, they're off and they're doing their thing. Mm-hmm. So I normally, when I get responses like that, I wish it were more detailed, but at the same time, I know this person's on their game. So
yeah. So fantastic. Thank you again for being with us today, David.
Thanks for having me.
Are you ready to be the leader you need to be to have the business that gives you your life back? If so, you may be a good fit for our small group coaching program at Tap the Potential. You can apply directly by going to profitgift.com. All one word, profitgift.com. What are you waiting for? Your life is waiting for you. Thank you for spending time with us today. Join our conversation in the Profit by Design podcast Facebook group. Share your thoughts on today's episode, ask us questions, and let us know what you want to hear about next. Visit our website at profitbydesignpodcast.com to access resources from our sponsors and tools we've created for you. Subscribe to the show on whatever platform you're listening to right now. There's a subscribe button right there. Go ahead and hit it so that you always get a notification when we release a new episode. And finally, share our podcast with a friend if you know a friend who would enjoy it. Thanks again for listening. This is real life business. Keep your chin up, keep moving forward. You got this.